Welcome to episode 102 of the Omnigamersclub podcast, the podcast for games on all platforms, including Easter egg hunts. I am Daniel Winter.
And my name is Mark USA. Hello.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. Yeah, the celebration continues.
Yes, continuing to count down our top 100 games. Should we get straight to it? No preamble today?
I think we should, but just to remind people, we covered the top 25 through 11 of 2 episodes. It was Tabletop. The last episode was video games. So this time around, I think we're jumping back to Tabletop, right? That's my understanding.
Yes, so it's board games and TTRPGs and anything else that might happen to hit your tables. As I said previously, I don't have any tabletop RPGs. It's all board games for me. Your list may be a little different.
Yeah. So we're going to be covering the remaining top 10. So this is exciting. Exciting time to cover the good uns.
Surprises for both of us, I'm sure. We've only had a couple of crossovers so far. I'm curious to see if that trend continues.
Yeah, okay. I think I started last. You started last time, so I guess I should start. Is that right?
Whatever.
Whatever.
Go ahead.
Flip a coin.
You want to start?
Okay.
Be my guest.
Why don't I start? Because I have a bit of a adjustment to make.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized I made a mistake last time after we had started recording the tabletop rundown. Is that because of the way spreadsheets work and line numbering works? I added a table header, and that counted as number 1. So long story short is I only listed 24 games.
Excel spreadsheet formatting is its own game platform.
There you go. So for that reason, I had to come up with a 25th game. And I am going to say that you convinced me that a game that we discussed previously was worthy of including in my top 25. So you can call this my number 10. You can also call this my number 25.
You can also call this you breaking my bet on how many crossovers we're going to have.
Well, not unless we get a third, right? That's what we said. I think you said we would have 3.
On 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we hit 3 exactly, then your bet is not broken yet. But anyways, I'm going to list Dune Imperium as my number 10, my redo number 10, because I do enjoy it. I play it all the time. I think it's good, but I don't think it's like mind-blowingly good. But I think there's an elegance in design there, and we don't have to say much more than that since we talked about it 2 episodes ago.
Dune was my number 11, if I recall correctly.
Okay, so not too far off. So there's what does that make it? Two crossovers?
That's always a third.
All right,
it was Keyforge, and what was the other one that we had?
I think we did Yokohama.
I don't think you'd covered Yokohama yet.
Okay, maybe I will.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Anyways, we're already stuck in the mud here. All right, so I will include Dune Imperium on my list, and I'd be happy to hear your 10th.
Okay. My number 10 is Seven Wonders Duel.
Interesting.
So we covered this along with the base Seven Wonders back in episode 12, and we more recently covered the new Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle Earth in episode 67 with friend of the show Alex. So go listen to that. And I mean, if you'd listened to that recent episode, you would know that I still prefer that original game. I think it's just really lets you lean into the hate drafting and is not as streamlined as that new Middle Earth version, but it's just the crunch is where it's really at for me. So of course this is the 2-player dueling version of Seven Wonders. It's got that sort of pyramid card drafting. So you're drafting cards, but with a really fascinating mix of hidden and known information where you can plan ahead to a certain degree, but you've got to pick your fights as to where you're going to take a shot, take a chance at revealing cards or giving potential cards to your opponents, and whether you're going to plan in advance or grab the immediate benefits there. And you're fighting on multiple fronts of the combat victory and the science victory. So balancing three plates at once there, I just find it fascinating. It is one of very few games I feel is best on online. Like there's the board game arena implementation, where the math is done for you. The cards aren't as fitly. Like as much as I love this game, pretty rough production. I will say, like the production quality is pretty rough. Just not good card feel. So I love to play it online, where you can really crunch out those numbers and get into the hate drafting. That's Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah, that game really innovated. I think people thought before that time a two-player drafting game could not be done. But they introduced the literal pyramid. Well, the shape varies from round or era to era, but they introduced the essentially an array of cards with hidden information. Some of the information was known, some of it is unknown. So that was a real innovation at the time that the designers came up with. I do enjoy those games. I haven't played a lot. I played more of, like you said, Duel for Middle Earth recently, and I think that's a really streamlined way to play that game. But I haven't played it nearly as much as you, so my opinion of it is not so high. But still pretty solid.
Absolutely. Okay. What's
right.
your number 9?
Number 9. Okay, this one is for the ages because it's called Through the Ages. A really big board game by who is it by? Is it Shvadl? Vlada Shvadl?
Sounds about right. I know it is CGE.
Yeah, I should have looked up this.
Games Edition. Yeah,
I should have looked up this information, but everyone's got BGG. So, Through the Ages is a really epic game. It's obviously heavily inspired by the computer game, which is also on my list, if you recall from last episode, Civilization 2. Sid Meier's Civilization 2 was on my list, but of course, the Civilization series was also based on a board game, so the cycle continues. Through the Ages is another one that's great, played through the app. Through the Ages is a game that I love to play, but it's hard to play unless you have a well-aligned group to play it with. Basically, there's high skill level players, there's low skill level players, and it features. It's a long game, and it features player elimination. So it's a little unforgiving to those novices who are learning the game. But that said, I think if everyone, if you had the ideal scenario where everyone's learning it at the same pace, you have a group that is happy to keep playing the same game over and over and learning the ins and outs and the folds and the kind of unique character of the game as the cards progress. Basically, there's multiple eras. Each era has new technologies, but unlike games that have handled this in more shallow ways before, nudge nudge, Seven Wonders, or even things like, I don't know, I guess like, what is that game? Tapestry, like explicitly doesn't have those
Civilization
eras.
themed games.
Right. This one does really feel like a long epic, and it has no compromises. It can be really cutthroat. It's got obviously a degree of drafting to it, hate drafting potentially, and it's got direct player interaction because you can target other players to be attacked by your forces. You can create alliances, much like a game we played recently, like Eclipse. So you can kind of create these kind of diplomatic arrangements with certain cards so that, hey, Daniel, I won't attack you, but we're going to attack. But obviously that means that the third player is going to get attacked more. So it has so many layers. Everything about it is logical. It's elegant, surprisingly thematic. Just everything about it sings, I think. It's a really well put together package. A little bit old school at this point, but like I said, with all those wrinkles, it doesn't hold you by the hand, and it's not like a balanced quote unquote new Euro game, right? It's really of a different generation. And I think if you have the appetite for that, and if you have a willing group, then it's definitely worth it to check it out. Play at least 3, 4, 5 times to really sink your teeth into it. I think a lot of people get a lot out of that game.
Yeah, I've not played this in person, but you're right. That app is really excellent. Like best in class, I think. So many quality of life features. In large part, like it has a super granular undo button. Like, you can't never underestimate the strength of a good undo button, and it really lets you like explore your different options and possibilities, especially as you're learning that game, and you're not going to make easy mistakes. But unfortunately, it's just not worked for me at all for the last couple of years. There's been server issues every time I've started the new game. People have like dropped out due to server issues. So it probably would have been on my list were it not for that. I'd like to get back to it at some point. Perhaps we should try again just for the hell of it. See if we can get a game going.
Try the game in person. Yeah, it's a
Well,
bit of
that
a
too.
commitment, but yeah, the app does have its wrinkles as well. Definitely, a solo game is interesting. That's an app that has unique digital only scenarios,
Like challenge modes and
yeah,
different
which I really
scenarios. Yeah.
appreciate. It's a great way to learn the game for one.
Mm,
And the reason why the app works so well is because the analog, the tabletop game itself is so elegantly designed. You know, every it's like a clockwork
yes.
machine that just fits together so well. But I've talked at length about it.
Okay. Well, my number 9, which people may guess because they've seen it right above me here for every episode, it is Mansions of Madness. So this is, well, I guess the first edition came out in 2011 from Corey Knizia, and there was a second edition 2016 from Nikki Valens who like redeveloped it. So interesting. I did play the first edition once, was my first experience, and I'd said that I didn't have any role-playing games in my list tonight, but to me, like, this fulfilled all of my needs. My hierarchy of needs were met by this game in terms of role-playing, at least in terms of like classic dungeon crawling style role-playing, not potentially the more modern actual character improvisation sense, but it has like adventure and mystery and mini games and fighting Lovecraftian monsters. So that original version had a GM, and they weren't necessarily like having agency over the story and progression. They were largely there to just keep the rules on rails, right? But it is like it is one of those games that has a lot of moving pieces, so it's just helpful to have a guide sort of familiar with the game and able to guide everyone through it. The new version obviously has an app which works fairly well, but you still need someone at least to be fairly familiar with the game. It's not going to, it'll give you like some tool tips that won't guide you through it, but ultimately it just, as I said, has all of the trappings of a classic adventure, role-playing adventure, with a strong sense of characters. Obviously, it's going to have it's the same characters from Arkham Horror, if anyone's played those games. So just a wide variety of characters to choose from, especially when you throw in all the expansions, a lot of content for that game now. And as it is literally sliding tile puzzles and mini games with keys, and just a lot of different ways that you're going to be interacting with that world. And yeah, I really enjoy that form of storytelling. I am now getting into actual role-playing games, but when you don't have the patience or sort of mind for actually having to craft a role-playing experience, this game will give you the trappings of that in a box with GM-less role-playing adventure.
Nice. Yeah, I can't say I've had a chance to play Mansions of Madness myself. I know it has a big place in the tabletop industry, and I always kind of confuse it with like other games, like what is it like?
Well, there's like 5 games in that setting, like the Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror.
There's Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yes, yeah.
Kind of similarly themed games. But I don't know. I started my early board game career with some of these maybe like not so great designed, kind of very thematic games.
Yeah.
That spread a lot of the narrative, like what were they called? It was Last Night on Earth. Do you know that game?
Oh, vaguely, yes.
Yeah,
so similar to that. Yeah.
This another game by the same designers, Fortune and Glory, and those games were also very good at creating sort of like scenarios, like very cinematic setups with like visually realized characters and you sort of had some narrative choices to make. It was very, very light
A lot of them are just
storytelling
like
stuff.
random event simulators, right? Just
Yeah.
roll dice, flip a card, stuff happens without necessarily having a cogent, cohesive story. Mentions of Madness does at least have that broadly in terms of having, it has scenarios that, like, I think there's half a dozen scenarios in that base box. I've only played a couple of them, but they left a really strong impression. And I mean, obviously the themes are a little wrought with the Lovecraftian legacy, and even just the name Madness, like that. And it's a name I've tried to avoid in my vocabulary. There's a history of not ideal treatment of mental health issues, obviously. I can't speak to that. I haven't played it recently enough, but I did really enjoy it as a role-playing adventure.
Is this one of those games that, like, madness is an mechanism within the game?
Yeah, I think you have your health meter and you have your sanity meter, right? Which are
Right.
obviously not at all an accurate representation of mental health, but
Yeah.
It's gamified. Yeah.
Right. Understand. Yeah. Older games treat some modern concepts in a more shallow way, shall we say. So that said, I'm going to roll right into my next game, which is a tabletop role-playing game. My first tabletop role-playing game, which I played the second edition of, I think it was when I was playing in the 1990s. This game is called Shadowrun.
Oh.
So Shadowrun is a really, seminal RPG from originally from FASA. It's changed hands many times over the years. It's into its 6th edition now, but we don't talk about the 6th edition. So Shadowrun was really exciting for me. The game originally came out in 1989. I think they just released a reissue of the first edition rulebook. I just saw it at our friendly local game store, Rain City Games, the other day, and it looks great. It still looks good. A lot thinner than I thought. Number 2 was the one I got into most, and this is a game that has cyberpunk meets fantasy. I don't know if it was the first one that did that, but that really kind of blew my mind because I'd known about sci-fi sort of growing up in the Cold War era with this post-space race, post-Star Wars era, growing up with Transformers as a kid, and I always enjoyed that more than like Lord of the Rings was not in my vocabulary at all. Just didn't have any friends that were into fantasy, but just like kind of magic plus machines just like instantly captivated me. And it didn't hurt that the game was set in Seattle primarily. That's the kind of the default setting. In Seattle, us living in the the southwest of Canada, but the Pacific Northwest of North America, it's like it's a place I've been. It's a place I can picture in my mind. So it's kind of cool to think, oh, that's like close to me, but it's super fantastical too. It's like futuristic, but it's got these fantastic elements, and it's got like Asian people in it. Amazing. It's got First Nations people. I can't believe it. Like, it's got more than just white people. It's got orcs. It's got trolls. It's got drones, which were just like mind-blowing concept back then. Of course, this is everyday concepts now. Flying drones, dropping down weapon payloads on people. AIs that are writing software and altering the financial systems of the world behind the scenes. All this stuff was really, really mind-blowing way back in, I think, 1992 when the second edition of Shadowrun came out. It was not all great stuff either. So I told you that there's Asian people in Shadowrun, which was originally appealing to me. I hadn't seen a game, modern or even a future set game that had Asian people. Me being Japanese Canadian, that was really appealing to me to have even some representation there that wasn't ninjas and samurais. But there was a lot of like exoticism there. There was a lot of othering there.
I was going to ask, like, how does it deal with like race essentialism? A lot of those fantasy RPGs do fall into that trap.
Oh, absolutely, because D&D at the core of it definitely did that. Bioessentialism, really. Well, this one, as all cyberpunk was rooted in the early days, has a fear of Japan especially, but other countries more specific, more generally. And is because, at that time, Japan was an economic superpower that was threatening to overcome the United States as the world's preeminent economy. Right now, Japan's not even, on the list. It's more, places like China that you worry about in the European Union. But so a lot of that exoticism, that othering was there for sure. And cyberpunk, like Cyberpunk 2020, the other more pure non-fantasy cyberpunk system that was out there before also had this concept, but you could put these mechanical implants in your body to make you sort of superhuman. Like you have super strength, or you can have weapons embedded in your body, or you can have computer interfaces implanted into your brain and things like that. And it had this concept about if you put more gear into your body, or you replace more of your flesh parts, you become less human, become less natural. And I think even in I think Cyberpunk 2020, you get this thing called cyberpsychosis. It's actually still around. It's a core feature in the 2077 video game, and it's a feature in the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime series that's on Netflix that came out within the last 5 years. So these really kind of like questionable and hurtful concepts definitely exist. Not to mention the real, what would you say, cultural appropriation of First Nations cultures. I thought it was really fascinating at the time because I guess I didn't really know too much about history myself as a 12, 13-year-old. But now that I look at it with an adult's sense of perspective, I sort of feel a little dodgy about supporting it wholeheartedly. But as an artifact of my personal history and of sci-fi role-playing in general, I think it definitely has a place for study. And I don't think the game really has a place financially. Like the 6th edition was a real kind of derailment. The system does not play well. There's not a lot of verve and energy behind it. There have been a couple of interesting things they've done with board games in the Shadowrun world. Video games as well. There's been excellent video games that have come out from Harebrained Schemes, I think there was.
Excellent video games. If I recall, a certain first-person shooter back in the day.
Yeah, for the 360, right? I was more talking about Shadowrun Returns, the isometric RPG. But anyways, this is really important, dear to me, to my heart. And sort of like a companion game to Earth Dawn, which I mentioned 2 episodes ago. Excellent. From the same publisher. So yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of one of those computer RPGs and enjoyed what I saw, but didn't get too deep into it. Not overly familiar with that setting, but I did just finish reading the Neuromancer, I guess the Sprawl trilogy it's called, which was like the grandfather of Cyberpunk, basically, William Gibson series. So I'm looking to explore a little more of that genre, I guess, and TTRPGs obviously have a much broader way of exploring that. So I know you've been playing a slightly different one with some friends lately that I might look to.
Yeah, that's right. I think I'll talk more at length about it later, but I've been playing the new Shadowrun with its serial numbers rubbed off game called Sinless, which is by independent studio. I've been getting demoed the game by the author and playing it with some people I know locally, also online. There's some really promising stuff there as well, but I'll give my full thoughts later on. Anyways, excellent. Yeah, carry on.
Let's jump along. So my number 8, another big fantasy adventure, if you're sensing a theme here. It is Too Many Bones. So this is the sort of tactics game cross story adventure from Chip Theory Games, and it I literally have you probably can't see it behind me here. The Trove box takes up a whole Kallax cube on my shelf with all of the expansions and various additional characters. Huge sprawling game with so many customization options to explore in there. Basically, it's a you choose one of these gearlocks, goblin style creatures, each one having like 20 different dice to choose from. You're drafting dice and like this tech tree. Like tech tree is always fun to just advance through and explore and try different things. Rolling handfuls of dice, always good fun. You've got these sort of tight tactics games where you're fairly deterministically trying to sort out optimal combat arrangements, and a lot of dice rolling to keep things interesting there. But then you're alternating that with actual story scenarios, which could be mini games, like even like dexterity games or little story choose your own adventure beats, or some of them will tie in with the big boss. Like you'll choose one big boss that you're working towards that will sort of flavor some of the events and scenarios you're coming across. And the writing isn't amazing, but it's always it's good fun in this sort of grand scope of like going on multiple day adventure. It just has this really grand scope to it as you're literally progressing through the map, and the enemies are getting harder and harder as you go along, and just a great mix of like tactics and thematic sort of flavor there. And it is an incredibly wonky game, both in the rules. Like there's just so many differing abilities interacting with each other that the rules are a bit of a beast to wrangle. The rulebook isn't great. I had the pleasure of being taught the game by a friend who was just super familiar with the rules and was able to like just introduce us and guide us through this really like it was basically GMing another role-playing game. So had a lot of fun there. She's now working for Chip Theory as a rules editor. So I was in good hands there as an introductory experience at least. So, but I've learned to love it since myself. I have barely scratched the surface of some of the characters and bosses in that game, but always a good time with Too Many Bones.
That's cool. I haven't had the chance to play it. Someone needs to invite me to their place to try out their big box.
Yeah, but unfortunately, too heavy to bring to yours. That's like drag the whole cube.
I believe that. Yeah, but I do recall that it has like some really kind of chunky, what is it, like trays or something that you kind of slot dice into. Is that correct?
Yeah, I am not immune to the charm of sort of fancy components. Basically, everything in this game is a poker chip. Like all the characters are on poker chips, the enemies are on poker chips. You have your health is literally stacks of chips. Like the higher the stack, the more health you have, and you're moving them around this grid. Yes, there you go. Chips all the way down, and you've got the dice. Like the 20 or so dice for your character's abilities fit into this grid on a neoprene mat, and you sort of slot them in, and it's very tactile. That like, yeah, I'll admit that's part of the charm for me.
There you go. Everyone who likes tabletop games does like their little bits to play with, don't they? Mm-hmm. Very nice. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to quickly talk about a game that's number 7 on my list. It's a board game by a Japanese designer, Hisashi Hayashi. Came out in 2016. It's called Yokohama.
Ooh, there it
which
is.
You may recall we did cover 2 episodes ago. So I'm not going to talk about at length.
I think it was in my 15 or so. I don't remember where exactly it was on my list. It's a bit higher.
Possibly. So I've doubled your score there, or halved, if you want to call it that way. I think just hunt out the first edition of this game. What did they do? They hurt my baby with this one. The first edition is so elegant, almost whimsical.
Right behind me here. There you go.
In its stylings. Yeah, just this like really interesting take on a colorful, interesting take, and really understated design. And the new one is this kind of like pastel-y,
westernized, maybe
westernized but exoticized take on, I don't know, I guess their vision of the new design. At least the box cover is, and it has that thing they do, which, excuse me, this is going to be offensive to some, but they do the Ching Chong font.
Oh, one-time font, yeah.
Yeah, basically they try and pretend that it's Chinese characters in brushstroke, but it's actually just spelling out English letters, which just confuses things all around.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for English speakers to read, and Asian speakers think, is that supposed to mean something? Publishers, you really got to stop doing that because it hurts everyone.
I'm glad the game is available again, but it is disappointing to see them fall into those classic traps that I thought the industry had learnt from.
No, has not moved on since its dark early days. But Yokohama is a great game, well worthy of playing. So long as they haven't wrecked the rules or anything like that, you should have a good time playing this one. Seek it out and play it however you can.
It's on Board Game Arena too.
There you go. It's decent play.
Excellent. My number 7. A little bit of a hat trick for this one. It's hard to select what the actual game name is because it's Imperium Classics / Legends / Horizons.
It's a whole series.
Basically, the Imperium system from Osprey Games. They basically, there's 3 different standalone boxes. I have Legend. No, I have Classics. Horizons is the newest one, and the most factions in the box are probably the best starting point. They've sanded down some of the rules fiddliness there, but this is a civilization deck building game. Asymmetrical, where you're basically selecting a faction at the start of the game. You start out with a sort of pre-built deck, and then you're expanding on that deck over the course of the game, adding in both faction-specific cards, but also some common cards as well. But there's been so many lighter deck building games recently. Like the hobby has really been great at streamlining deck building as a mechanic and getting it down to its core. Obviously with Dominion, but more recently games like Clank or even Arnak, the games that are using deck building in a very simple sense, but in conjunction with other mechanics. Whereas this is one of very few games lately that have really doubled down on depth and complexity with deck building. Not that that's an inherent virtue, but if you really want a chunky deck building experience that you can really get your hands into and learn the ins and outs of, this is a fantastic one. The one of the real charms for me is the way in which there's this constant push and pull of cards coming in and out of your deck. Basically, every time you shuffle your deck, every time you get through your deck and have to shuffle it, you get to add a new faction-specific card to your deck. So you're always adding new stuff in, slightly randomized, so never in the same order. So at the same time, you're trying to get cards out of your deck, and there are so many tools for you to do that both temporarily and permanently. So there's this really interesting flow state as your deck is expanding and contracting. You can really control a sense of pacing, and obviously every faction also different in how they go about that. So, I mean, I've only played each faction a couple of times, but there's a strong sense of discoverability and finding out how each one works a little differently than the rest, and how it compares with each other faction that you're playing against as well. Only play this game 2-player. It's way too unwieldy at more than that, I will say. Even at 2-player, it can take more than 3 hours. It is a hefty game, but just a fascinating experience for like a civilization-themed game, but with some really fantastic deck building.
Yeah, I enjoyed that game the couple of times I played it with you. I don't remember which of those flavors it was that you were covering, but it just seemed like really tight, kind of like a small card game with depth to it, because you start from a small scope and expand from there. And this might be a spoiler for things to come, but I acquired a game just recently which re-implements the Imperium engine, and if I'm not mistaken, that's what I heard. Anyways, that's the scuttlebutt.
Star Trek Captain's Chair, I believe.
That is
right?
the game I just acquired. 2025 Star Trek Captain's Chair from WizKids Publishing. Got it at my friendly local game store, Rain City Games, just a couple days ago. So I haven't cracked that open yet, but I'll happily play it with you. Maybe you can teach me how to play Imperium again. Because it has a lot of qualities that I like: deck building, hand management, and a Star Trek theme excites me a little bit more than Ancient World, Ancient Heroes. But Ancient Heroes is cool too.
Fair enough. Well, yeah, you got Martians and like Lovecraftian cultists. I think in this one now they're expanding the scope of that. But maybe I wonder if they're compatible. Could you have Kirk
cool.
coming in as a first contact with the Romans or something?
That sounds like I feel like they've done that in the original series. I think they had Apollo or something they encountered. All right, I'm going to move into my next game. Speaking of small card games that have strategic and tactical depth. My game, my number, what number is it? My number 6 from repeat designer Mr. Thomas Lehman is 2019's Res Arcana. So Res Arcana is a game. I don't know how much love it's got. What is it? It's ranked 168 overall on BGG. That's not too bad. Top 200, 139 within strategy. So this game is not a deck building game. Basically, you can draft, but you start with something like 8 or 10 cards. And those are all the cards you're going to have through the course of the entire match. And basically, it's competitive between 2 or, I don't know, 4 or 5 players. And you take turns activating, I think you're just activating, taking one action. And it's like, I won't even go into depth in it because it's none of the mechanisms I feel like are terribly revolutionary, except that like there's no mana per se. You can acquire these resources, which you use to pay for things, but you can also basically like discard a card to earn resources. There's 4 regular ones and then 1 gold, which you can use to pay for its unique things, but it's got unique sort of faction leaders. So even if you get dealt the same cards, if you got dealt a different leader from the last time you played it, you might have an entirely different experience. And also, unlike a lot of card games where you win the game by just beating your opponent to death, this is sort of a little bit closer to something like Dune Imperium, where the first player to 10 points wins, and it's a bit of a race to reach that point. There's multiple ways you can reach that point. You can build these sort of monuments. You can build these, I think they're called places of power, of which the five places of power that are in play for that particular match varies each time because you deal them randomly. This game has a lot of those qualities, like engine building, tactical depth. There is a little bit of player interaction, as in you can target all of your opponents. I don't think you can target one other player if you had a choice. Basically, you target everyone or no one. And you can turtle up, or you can go offensive, but you are also rewarded for being smart and economical. Daniel, have you played this game, Res Arcana?
I've played it a few times, yeah. I like it well enough. I don't love how you have such a small hand of cards, or a small deck of cards, like 8 or whatever it was. But you start out with 4. You look at your hand of cards. Okay, what's the optimal engine to build with these cards, and you execute it. And it's basically a game. Not that it's completely decided from the get-go, but you know your broad strategy from the start of the game, and then it's just can you execute that strategy? And I don't find it terribly exciting. There's not much new information added to the game as it goes on, I guess, is my main issue.
Yeah, I guess that's a sign of you and I differing, is that sort of excites me because I do like being presented with a challenge and being, what can you make of this? What can you do with this? Essentially, if you draft your 8 or 10 cards, like you know exactly what cards you're going to be dealing with, but the order in which they come out can make a big difference because you're only seeing like one new card every round. It does matter what the other players are playing as well, obviously, because some cards can affect the cards that they have in play.
And you're drafting those scrolls, I think it is, each round.
That's right. So in addition to those 5 places of power I told you about, which anyone can claim as long as they are the first one who has enough to pay for those particular places of power. Each round you draft a different, I forget what it's called, like an artifact or something, which gives you a unique power for just that round. And then I think with the expansions, you can also draft these scroll things, which give you further different powers as well. So it's all about introducing these kind of discrete chunks of power, of ability, of special abilities, and kind of lining them up and utilizing them in the most optimal way. It's an optimization game.
Yeah.
It really speaks to me.
Yeah, I can see the appeal, just not my particular brand of optimization puzzle.
Yeah, makes sense. I play this one a ton. It's also on BGG. I think that this one is best played with 2 players myself, but you can play it with more. It just takes more time. You know how it is. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 is ideal for playing this one. And the other game I covered by Thomas Lehman was Race for the Galaxy, 2 episodes ago.
Which I much prefer. As I said, just new information being added, you're constantly recalculating what your options are. I mean, you're still broadly executing a grand plan, but there's enough uncertainty in there to sort of to make that optimization puzzle more dynamic, I think.
Yeah, that one's more a little bit fast and furious with the cards you come in. A lot of cards come into your hand, a lot of cards leave your hand. And Res Arcana is much more small and granular.
Okay, my number 6, and you may have noticed a trend of more thematic games on my list, but I did have to fit in one last classic Euro game of pushing cubes around a beige map of Europe. It is Hansa Teutonica. This is a relatively recent discovery of mine, a game I avoided for years, partly because of that reputation of it looking very brown, but hiding an incredibly dynamic and just interactive game. You're basically creating routes around a map of Germany, or I think there are some expansion maps. I've only played the base map as of right now, but you're creating these routes, placing cubes on this map, but you can block other players and then force them to sort of move their cubes around. The way that points are generated, you're basically having to give players other points. Like if you can put down strongholds in certain areas, every time they visit that location, they give you a point. And so the pacing and the meta of the strategy each game is completely player driven. And if someone's like blown the game out and won by 20 points, that's on everyone else for giving them those 20 points. And I have played this game and had some bad feelings with some players like feeling like they didn't have a chance, or one player was too far ahead. But it's such a weird, messy game that isn't like balanced out like so many more modern Euros. Sort of very player driven point economy that's just constantly shifting, and yeah, never has pushing cubes been so exciting.
Yeah, I played this game a couple times with you. I do, give credit to this game being very, I think it's a fantastically designed game. Like all the systems work so well together. You're right in that, there's no elaborate deck of cards that you're going to pull out super mystery powers out of or anything like that. Like the actions you take are going to affect your fellow players, and the actions they take are going to affect you. There's going to be a heck ton of blocking. There's actually removal of you can remove players their pieces from spaces, their cubes from spaces, and that's going to create some ire. And so for such an older Eurogame, it has a surprising amount of that direct player interaction. This is going to cause some feelings, but I think that more Eurogames would be more interesting if they had more of these strong qualities to them, because it's definitely unique for that. And you're right, if you don't win the game, you have no one to blame but yourself.
It's so incredibly passive aggressive is the emotion that comes to mind, where you're not attacking other people, you're just getting in their way. You're putting a cube down exactly where you know they want to go, and they have to pay you to kick you out of there. And yeah, so I just fascinating game. I'm really excited to check out some of the newer maps that I've heard even better. And the new big box edition that came out just a couple of years ago includes like all the expansion maps, and it's an incredible steal for the price.
For my sake, I don't want to be a downer, but I didn't enjoy it as much as you the couple of times I did play it. So I respect it a great deal, but I think it's terribly dry and not terribly inspiring in terms of theme or execution. I think people can find personal victories in achieving certain things. I think there's like kind of things like networks that you can create or things like that.
And you're also upgrading your abilities as you go. Like you can increase the number of actions you get, or increase the number of cubes you get back when you sort of take a reset action. And so there's sort of almost like engine building that you're doing as well.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of something that you would see in later games like Scythe, where you sort of expand your player board a little bit. So I think Hansa Teutonica is an earlier game, so I think it inspired those later innovations.
Excellent. Okay, halfway there.
Yes. Speaking of which, I will talk about my number 5 game. This is a game that we've covered as a feature episode before. We covered this way back in March of 2023. It's called Orleans.
Ooh.
Orleans is a game by designer Rainer Stockhausen. Artist is Clemens Franz, who is very, very familiar to anyone who's played some Uwe Rosenberg games. But the art style for this is fantastic. It has this very like kind of Crusades artwork from things that remind you of games like Pentiment that we covered
illustrated manuscripts that
recently, or the Canterbury Tales. So very powerful art style there. It's set in France, obviously, Orleans, during the Crusades, and you have your typical characters like monks and knights and boatmen and things like that. And the game just looks fantastic. It's surprisingly muted, but it's still colorful, and I think this game is very popular when you get the version of it that has the upgraded chips that have those little soft rounded chips that you can pick up as well. So I'm sort of bearing the lead here in that Orleans is it's not one of the first, but I feel like it's the first kind of deep strategy bag building games. So bag building is a game, obviously, that is a descendant of a deck building game. So instead of cards in a deck, you have chips that go into a bag, thus bag building game. But this game is still really super highly regarded. It's, for instance, the 34th ranked game on Board Game Geek, 29th overall in strategy. I play this game over and over and over, even the default mode on Board Game Arena, because I don't own it. I don't own the physical version, but I have played the physical version multiple times, so I know it's pretty good. But I don't think you're gaining a lot. I don't think you're gaining a lot playing the physical game over the digital. Surprising.
Isn't the whole point pulling those things out of the bag, though?
No, I don't think so. I think the strategy sings beyond pulling it. This isn't like Quacks of Quedlinburg, where like the tension of pulling one token out or two tokens out is the real cusp of the game. No, it's nothing like that. That's the mechanism which allows you to use the strategy, to implement the strategy. And despite the base game, only having so many directions to it, it's surprisingly deep. I've played it dozens of times in the past couple of months, or few months alone since the BGG iteration came out. It's since been, there's been follow-up games, like I think Altiplano was by the same designer, a little bit more refined, a little bit deeper, but I think Orleans still has a sort of an elegance to it. It's not too deep, but it has a number of expansions to it that have taken it in different ways. I think even one of them introduces like cooperative play.
Campaign, I think, right?
Yeah, it's a powerful engine. I think it works really well. And just looking at it with its bright, colorful, circular discs with character faces on it, it belies the depth of this game. I think if you haven't tried it yet, it's well worth it. It still feels very fresh. Anyways, we have a whole episode on it, so I won't belabor that point. It's really good. That's Orleans, my number 5 game.
Yeah, I was spoiled the first time I played that with the deluxe bits and the great clacky feel of drawing them out of a bag. But that is half of the appeal to me. I played it online and enjoyed it, but I really want the tactility of like actually plopping them down into the little circles on your board, and like that. Again, it is an optimization puzzle, but with enough unknown information of how they're coming out of the bag and having to constantly recalculate your options there. So yeah, I do really enjoy that one.
It's a good one.
Okay, my number 5. So a game not on my list is Pandemic, which I know a lot of people in the gaming world love. I've always found that one a little bit dry theme, a little bit tougher to deal with these days, shall we say. But it did kick off one of my favorite games, because my number 5 is Forbidden Islands, and might be a little bit of a hot take to say this. I think this is a better game than Pandemic. So this is from Matt Leacock. Came out in, when was it, 2010. from Game Right, and it's basically a family version of Pandemic, where you are visiting. You basically have a map, but rather than a board, you have a grid of tiles, and you're literally moving between the tiles, like spatially, like one movement to an adjacent tile, to collect. You're collecting cards similar to Pandemic, but here it's like you're trying to find artifacts. There's 4 artifacts on an island. It's a little bit sort of Indiana Jones adventure-y vibes, trying to find the 4 elemental artifacts. But it's incredibly tactile, just moving around the board. But they're also these tiles are sinking. So rather than like outbreaks happening in Pandemic, the island is sinking, by which you flip over the tile and then it disappears from the board entirely. So there's literally now a physical gap in your map of the island, and you have to navigate your way around that. Or you might have an ability that lets you swim through there, for example. And it by the end, it feels like this real action movie vibe where you get back, you collect all the artifacts, you get back to the helipad, and there's literally 2 tiles left on the island that's sinking down. It's like very much Indiana Jones grabbing the hat as the door comes down, right? It's just fantastic action movie pacing, with a much more accessible theme and colorful artwork, and just like the components are great. They're like all the 4. You literally have the 4 artifacts. They're like little plastic miniatures, basically, that just feel great. It comes in a tin, which is always a little. I know it's a little bit contentious as to whether people like tins, but it's a fantastic bargain for the price and the sort of component quality, and yeah, really family friendly. Introduction to that sort of cooperative gameplay. I once introduced some friends to this. Left to, I think I went to a concert. Came back home afterwards. They were still playing it like 4 hours later. They've just been mainlining Forbidden Island nonstop. It's great.
I've played this game, Forbidden Island, a number of times. I own a copy of it, and I did play it with my kids, with my family. It is, quite a an easy game to get into, easier than Pandemic, because there's just like fewer components.
It's very, very streamlined, yeah, which I think is the charm.
Like Pandemic has like dozens of cards, multiple sets for each city, of which there are dozens across a global map. So yeah, obviously there's a lot more going on there. I do agree that this is a very kind of easy to play, easy to get into game, and it does provide a nice puzzle to it. I can't say that it has a lot of lasting power for me, though. It just sort of feels the same every time, in my opinion, which is nice once in a while. Definitely good for our kids, or older kids, certainly, or adults that are novices to deeper games. But yeah, it's excellent quality. The package is good. I think you can get it for fairly cheaply in that tin from Game Right. But for my own sake, I don't think it's one for the ages, but definitely worth trying.
Yeah, it came to me fairly early in my sort of game experience, so it still holds up for me, but it was there at the right time as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to introducing that to my kid.
Very nice. Yeah, it's a good one for that. All right, I'm going to roll into my number 4, I believe it is. So we're getting there, getting close to the top of the list. This one is a game that I don't know if it's really that good. It's another one that's there for nostalgic reasons for me. This game is number 871 overall on BGG. I wasn't going to really include BGG because I don't really care about it as a resource that much, but just for context, it's there. This game is from 2011. It's called Eminent Domain. By designer Seth Jaffe. It's a card game for 2 to 4 players. It's a really like unpresuming box. It's got this uninspiring picture of space. There isn't even a spaceship on the cover of it, believe it or not, and it has a boring title based off of like a land use law. So not really inspiring stuff here. But I got into this game kind of at the height of my. I probably got into board games like really in like 2008, 2009, in a big way, and this was kind of right there at the crest of it. And something about this game, I probably played it like 200 times. I had a good friend, my sister's boyfriend at the time, who I would play this 2-player with all the darn time, and we've got to be really, really good at it, and we kind of like challenge each other to get a higher and higher score. And it is actually quite a different game when you play it two players versus even 3 or 4. 2 players, I think, is the ideal way to play this game, because there is not any really player interaction other than a very light bit of card drafting to it. It's essentially an early deck builder, but it was doing it its own way. The cards that you draft are one of 5 core role cards. So it's sort of like, imagine if you combine, like say, Eclipse with Dominion and Puerto Rico. So the role, the role cards in Puerto Rico sort of define what you and the other players do in each round of the game. So basically, there's 5 roles. Actually, it's a lot like Race for the Galaxy as well. Some of them are like survey, some of them are produce trades, some of them are attack. And the more often you do a roll, the better you get at it, essentially, because each card represents a sort of a symbol for one of those roll abilities, and the more symbols you show, the more powerful your effects can be. So it's not mind-blowing. I think it is actually quite elegant. There were some rules issues which they clarified in subsequent printings. It has a couple of expansions as well. I think the first of them was pretty good, but the later ones I didn't really get into. But this game has a surprising amount of depth to it. It just speaks to me, as you've probably heard in the previous games I played. I like games that have few components. Card games are great, can be played with ideally 2 to 4 players, and it's a medium to short length, with a great depth of tactical gameplay to it, and a decent strategy as well. And this fits everything to a T. I have played the base game of it so many times, and I continue to play it. It's readily available on BGG, so I recommend people go hunt this out if you can. It's a TMG game as well, so unfortunately TMG has gone away, but if you can find a copy of this, definitely seek it out or go play it on BGG.
Excellent. I think I've played it a couple of times online, but didn't really get the flow and pacing of it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So I need to try it in person, I think, to really internalize the rules and what makes it different from like Race for the Galaxy.
Yeah, I think it will probably not garner a lot of like it doesn't have a lot of visual appeal or just overall appeal, because it only has something like 50 unique cards in it, whereas even the base form of Race for the Galaxy has like hundreds of different cards that do all these sort of different powers. But I think the success of this game is the elegance of it. It does a lot with a little, and it's all about nuance. But that's enough for me. It's another nostalgia game from my back catalog.
Okay, my number 4, and we spoke a little bit last episode, 2 episodes ago, about Agricola, which you'd mentioned. And I wasn't on my list, but I do really love the sense of play that it engenders, and just having a physical space and optimizing and expressing yourself through the components and how you build them out. And for me, the pinnacle of that experience is Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is from Ted Alsbach from Bezier Games, and I remember playing this at, I think, my very first TCTC, one of the older venues, when it was only like a couple of hundred people. Played this with a bunch of people I didn't know for the first time. We all went and bought it immediately afterwards, of course, after playing it a second time, because we all loved it so much. So basically, it's a tile drafting game. The tiles are all this weird variety of shapes. Like some of them are like octagonal and long rectangles, or L shapes, or like long corridors, and you're putting them into, basically you're forming a house, a castle, mansion, to create in theory you're creating optimization with adjacency bonuses, and having bedrooms next to living rooms, and other adjacency bonuses. But to me, like, just the theme comes out of it, of like, why is the cheese room next to the bedroom? Why is there this long corridor in your basement going to just the mold room? And there's little emergent stories that come out, and like you get so invested in like finding the perfect piece that fits right into this gap in your castle, and you completely forget that you're supposed to be like trying to earn victory points. So yeah, I just love those little moments of emergent play and just expressing myself with the castle as I'm building it out. It does have some excellent interaction as well, where each turn the first player is basically creating the markets, where you draw X number of tiles and then you decide what order they go in. Like you set the price as from low to high as a spectrum of prices. But then starting with the next person, they pay you the money. So you're trying to like guess how much are they willing to pay. We have to try and figure out like what tile do I think they want, how much do I think they're willing to pay for it, or will I like price them out of it completely? And so sometimes it's a little bit arbitrary, or you can't figure out what everyone wants, but it gives you the sense of agency at the very least. And if you really want to lean into it and study everyone's board and figure out what they need, you can lean into that as well. But it has a sort of gambling thrill as well, of just trying to set the market, and you getting money from other players is just a little always very juicy interaction of how much you can sort of squeeze everyone for. But mostly I love this for just the sense of building out my little castle. That game is getting a lot of buzz lately, actually, for everyone's talking about the video game Blueprints, which feels like it's taking a little bit of inspiration from this.
Yeah, I think I played Mad King Ludwig like once or twice, and I can't say I enjoyed it. Just something about it. Maybe I didn't give it a proper shakedown or try. I think some people just enjoy making buildings more, like making layouts. Like it's just an innate quality that a lot of people have. And I
as
don't...
I mentioned in Forbidden Island, this spatiality is a big thing for me.
Yeah, and there's other games like it, even video games like Blueprints, like you said, or even games like what is it, Fallout Shelter, things like that, right? Where like putting things cute next to each other, like gives people pleasure, adjacency, and things like that. I didn't particularly love it, but I would give it another shot.
Yeah, well, I've got the big fancy collector's edition now, so let's try that again sometime.
Okay, let's hope I like it better than last time.
Well, very much form over function, I will say, that collector's edition, but the base game is still solid.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna roll into number 3. So this is the top 3 territory. Drum roll, please. Da 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 da. We're getting quite up there. Okay, so this is a game. I build it up like that, and then I'm just going to tell you that we talked about it really recently. So I'm not going to say much. The game is from 2011, Eclipse, a new dawn for the
my
galaxy.
number 3 is.
I cannot imagine what it might be. So
well, technically, I have Second Dawn for the Galaxy as my number 3.
Oh, funny. Okay, so I am more familiar with the first edition, which confusingly enough is called New Dawn for the Galaxy, which sounds like it should be a number 2.
The second New Dawn.
But yeah, anyways. We
Final
talked about
Fantasy situation
Eclipse at length. It sounds like we're going to be talking about Eclipse really more. I'll just say it was really nice playing it recently. We talked about it in February of this year.
Just a few episodes ago, yeah.
So really recently. It's great. Playing it, I wouldn't play it every month. But once a year, I think we already agreed we would play it once a year for your birthday.
It's a great schedule game, like a tradition game, like every year on my birthday or every year at Christmas or whatever it is.
And definitely play it with like 4 or 5 or 6 players. Like this, unlike a lot of games that I play, this is a game that deserves to be a big group.
Go big.
Be a spectacle. And we've said it before in the episode, go check it out. But just such a great balance between Ameritrash and Euro game qualities to it. It is very chancy, but just for that event quality of it, play it. You'll have fun even if you're losing.
It's doing a lot of different things, like the exploration and the combat and the shipbuilding. And I think each one of those elements, other games do better. But I think Eclipse is just enough of every one of those elements synthesized in a really cohesive way.
Yeah, there's so much good going for this game. It's streamlined. It's still dynamic and fun. It's got theme to it, despite being really like easily readable and playable. The factions are interesting when balanced against each other. So you're saying that your number 3 is a second Dawn
Yes.
for the Galaxy? So we covered both games.
There you go.
Yeah, nice improvements in the second one too. The tray, obviously, the organizers for the components is
Such
a
a
lot
heavy game, you can set
nicer.
it up so quickly.
Yeah, just high quality. Go check it out. Go listen to our
Right
episode
above me
from February.
Well, there you go. You can jump straight into number 2 then.
All right, I guess I will. Okay, I think earlier on, 2 episodes ago, I covered a game called Terraforming Mars. It was fairly high on the last list. It was number 12 for me. And it has a lot of cool qualities to it. It's thematic. I love sci-fi. I love, like classic sci-fi too, like exploring, pioneering in space when you don't have a fleet of ships behind you or a galactic empire behind you. So I like that idea of building. And this game does everything Terraforming Mars does, but in my opinion, better. And the art is just hits it on the mark. I think not too amazing, but just like great. And thematically, it's even more interesting because it's doing the true final frontier, which is underwater. This game is called Underwater Cities from designer Vladimir Suchi. 2018's Underwater Cities. Mind you, I have not played the expansion for this, so I only know the base game. But I just was captivated by the theme right away. I got this game right away, and I was very, very pleased for it. It's the number 48th game overall on BGG, number 40 in strategy. And this game has a really interesting mechanism for playing. Basically, you have cards in your hand, and you have worker placement spaces around the board. And the worker placement spaces fall under these 3 colors, which have like kind of varying degrees of power. So the theory is that if one color, the action space is really powerful, the card effect is not very powerful. Or if the one color, the card effect is really powerful, but the action space is not that powerful. And then the third color is a sort of an even balance of medium power for each. So you have a really interesting worker placement choice and hand management challenge puzzle on your hands. And that really excites me every time I play it, because even if you're used to those very same worker placement spots every time, because you'll draft a different balance of cards every time, it's just a totally different puzzle. It's quite dynamic because you can you're hunting, you're competing to get these challenge these sort of end game bonus cards that you can draft or steal from the table. And you have this delightful puzzle of building your own underwater network of cities that are these domes, which are represented by these delightful kind of semi-spherical, semi-transparent domes on the board. And each of them has these modules, which look like these little jelly, like wine gum discs that definitely do not eat. And then you can connect them with these little networked tunnels. It's highly thematic and really, really reminds me of like Sequest, DSV, or Jules Verne, Worlds Under the Sea. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, we covered this as a feature episode a couple of years ago. I played it fairly recently. I was introduced to this, and it left a really strong first impression. I really enjoyed my first couple of games, and then it started to wear off a little bit, and that I felt that each successive game is going to be a little bit repetitive. It forces you to do this. The scoring encourages you to do a little bit of everything in ways that I felt were going to be largely the same each game. Obviously, how you get there is going to be very different, but that key card placement, multi-use card worker placement is really strong.
Yeah, you're right. We did cover this in August of 2023. I really like this. I've owned, like I said, I own the physical copy of this game, and it's been available to play on, I think, not Board Game Arena. I think it was one of the other ones.
Yucata.de?
Yeah, I think you're right. So I played it there as well. It's, to me, I found a different challenge every time. I guess I haven't played it that often successively. This is a game I play like twice a year, if I'm lucky enough that, and I absolutely adore the challenge when I do. I think this game's a keeper.
Yeah, some games work better when you play them less frequently.
Agreed. So go back to the old games in your closet. If we've learned anything from this exercise, that there are some oldies that are still goodies.
Yeah. Okay, number 2. So one other trend you've probably noticed in my list is a number of deck building games. But my favorite deck building game is Arkham Horror, the card game. So this is in the same universe as Mansions of Madness, which I mentioned earlier today. A lot of Fantasy Flight games in that oeuvre, big thematic games. So this is a living card game. When did it come out? 2016. It was original release from Nate French and MJ Newman. And there's been a few. They've remixed it a couple of times since with changed the card offerings and how they do expansions along the way that I'm not entirely up to date with, to be honest. But this is a cooperative campaign deck building game. It is the sort where you have to build a deck beforehand, which I don't love. I usually just use a preset recommended deck and go from there. But once you're in the game, I love it. It's just they do an incredible amount of storytelling with just cards. The way the map is laid out with cards and sort of routes going between them, and you use some cards as keys to basically keywords as unlocks for other cards. But this is in this really expressive thematic way. You might have cards representing the cards of cards of a train. Or sprawling mansion, and you're fighting monsters in there, but also undergoing other challenges. And yeah, again, it's similar to Mansions of Madness, expressive characters, and each deck being very different, like characters having their own unique abilities, but also the different cards you can draft into there. I've really enjoyed that. There's a couple of standalone character packs. It's like starter packs that you can play. I just love playing those. I don't even build my own deck. Just those standalone characters are really strong. One of them is based around trying to predict, because it is this a chip pulling mechanic. Like every time you take a challenge, you have to pull a chip out of a bag as a modifier. And one of the characters, you're trying to predict what chip you're going to pull out, which is really fun. There's a lot of asymmetry in the characters and how they express themselves. And yeah, using deck building for really thematic storytelling adventure.
Yeah, that is a game. It's a living card game, right? From
Yes.
Fantasy Flight originally. Yeah, I was slightly intrigued by the premise of this. I told you I never played Mansions of Madness or Arkham Horror originally in board game form, but this being a lighter card game, it struck my interest. But my problem with those living card games is that I never found a good group to continue playing these games with. And because they were living card games, and this one even more so, is not strictly just like a competitive card game like I don't know, what are those other Fantasy Flight games that they tried out there, like
Game of Thrones,
Star Wars Destiny, or things like that. This one was like narrative, so that was an even bigger challenge. Is like, where do I start? Who do I play it with? Can I find the consistent players that want to commit? They want to do the financial commitment as well. I just never made it happen. So is this a replayable game?
I mean, it is. You can play through the scenarios again. It's not going to vary that much. You're going to be once you know how they play out, you'll kind of know what to expect and can plan around that. So they're probably best playing through each adventure for the first time. I should say I've only played the base game and the first expansion set, the Dunwich Horror, I think it's called. But I've only played those first couple, and those left really strong impressions. I've been trying to get a group together for the next campaign, Path of Carcosa, I think it is. But again, yeah, I've struggled to get a group together as well. Been hoping to do that sometime this year, but we'll see.
Can you take the original components and give it to someone else and they could play after
absolutely.
the fact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's completely resettable. Yeah, it's just that you'll know what the story is once you've played through it.
Okay, so maybe I can keep picking up a package and try and find a group that will stick with it, commit with me. Okay, very good. I think we're at number 1, right?
Yeah.
We are. Okay, so I'm going to make a statement here, and I think it's a big statement, but I think it's true. I think I have chosen the undisputable number 1 board game of all time. Undisputable by anyone. So big claim, I know. Well, I have a big ego to go with it, so I'll try my best, anyways.
I shall not dispute it.
Please don't. I don't think you can. So this game, it was designed by, I don't know. It was designed potentially over 2,000 years ago. This is the game of Go. It's called Go in Japanese. It's called Weiki, I think, in Chinese, and Baduk in Korean, if I'm not mistaken. And so incredibly popular throughout East Asia. It's you might have seen it in games, in like movies, like there's that Beautiful Mind, I think, the one about Nash, the mathematician, who invented game theory. So it was a central component in that film. There's a manga and anime series based on it called Hikaru no Go. And it's played throughout Japan, China, Korea, like I said. There are competitions for it. There's an AI program that beat professional masters of it. That happened after they created professional chess AI, because Go is much more degrees more complex than the simple game of chess. So there's regularly professional Go players throughout all those 3 nations that I mentioned. There's a professional ranking system. They get sponsored and listed. The results of matches get listed in newspapers and such. There's tournaments where these sorts of things happen. The brilliant thing about Go is that it's entirely flexible. Games like chess and I think like shogi in Japanese has like these cryptic pieces that all look the same that have Chinese characters on them, and I can never get into. It's Chinese Japanese chess essentially, but Go is just very simple. You just play with white or black stones. You play on a gridded map, but unlike chess, you don't play on the squares of the grid. You play on the intersections of the grids. And in I think it's 19 by 19 lines in a full-size Go board. So there's hundreds of potential intersections that you can play at. And that's why it's such a complex game at the high level. But the tactics of it are simple. The rules of it are simple. The depth comes in through the flow of the game. And this is a game that I'll admit, I got inspired by watching Hikaru no Go, the anime, which does make it very exciting to learn about that world, especially because it's shown through like a young kid learning to play this game. And there are kids that become masters of the game. I think youngest masters are like have been like the age of like 7 or 8 that become professional level players. But I learned it a bit. I'm not good, but I have beaten some computer AIs at the very simple levels, and I play it now and again. And I've been playing it now and again on Board Game Arena, actually. So I don't play it intensely, but I play it about once a month. I only play 9x9 games. This is really a really cool quality of Go, is that 19 by 19 is very intimidating to get into. The game can go for like hours for a full-size game, but you can also play it on a smaller scale, and the rules can stay exactly the same, but the permutations become incredibly smaller as a result. So 9x9 grid lines is very, very manageable. You could play in like an hour or less. Very great at teaching game, and you can do 11x11 and so forth. So I highly recommend playing 9x9 games to anyone who's just curious, vaguely curious about learning it. And I'd happily play it with anyone. It's only a 2-player game, so just keep that in mind. But this game has so much depth to it. That's why it's lasted thousands of years and still excites people to this day. Easy to teach, hard to master. It's the definition of that in its very essence. And the cool thing is that even though I play very once in a while, I feel like I never forget the rules, because it's not that hard, not that easy to forget. But playing based off of like instinct and knowing spacing and having a sense of like flow to it. It's really kind of meditative, and you can also kind of toy with your opponents a little bit too. It's like, because generally there's always an obvious best play, so you can kind of like distract them by playing over here rather than down there. You can kind of press on one front of the battle, whereas put pressure on another side and kind of flank them from another direction. It's a very good, probably better metaphor for the phenomenon of war than even the game of chess is, in my opinion. Anyways, I've talked about it at length, so I think that's well worth being my number one board game of all time, tabletop game, and probably the best overall throughout history.
Interesting. I have never played it, so can't really add much there. And you did lend me, like, Go for Babies starter kit at some point that I need to check out. The hard part with these games, similar to chess, is just it's just really hard to find someone who's on the same skill level as you and find a satisfying match. I mean, obviously online is an option here, but like to me, these games, like I like to learn them and go through the experience of learning them in person.
Yeah, get taught by a person, get taught by a human who's willing to take the time. Thankfully, this game, on top of having like simpler modes like the 9x9 mode, there's actually a determined handicap system. Which works really well. Basically, the novice player will just get more stones on the board before the more experienced player gets to even place their first, which drastically increases the challenge of them. Because the overall goal in Go, you might think, is to capture the opponent's pieces. It's not. That's a side effect. The goal is to influence more territory. You don't even have to capture the pieces to influence or indeed hold, lock down essentially entire swaths of the board, and that's the goal of the game. So if a player has more pieces on the board, they have they're that much further along their goal.
Yeah, let's make a day of trying that out sometime.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, you took the high road. I'm going to take the low road and go for something far less classy. So a lot of the games on this list, to be honest, have been legacy games in that, not in the like campaign rip-up card sense, but in the, like games that I've not played for many years that I have very fond memories of, but don't know if they hold up to my current tastes. I hinted at last episode. It's a game that I'd long considered my favorite, but I'd not played for like 12 years. And I struggle with putting it here. I tried other games as number one, and nothing felt right as saying this is my number one game of all time. And even this one doesn't feel right. Like every game has different games for different times, for different experiences, right? It's hard to compare these. But I did revisit this game over the last couple of weeks, and I still really love it. It is Merchant of Venus. So this came out, original edition, in 1988, designed by Richard Hamblin. I've not played the original edition. I've played the newer Fantasy Flight second edition from 2012. Fantasy Flight appearing in my list a lot today. But curiously, that second edition had two modes included in it. There was the classic edition, which is like a remaster, like sort of touch up of the original edition, and then the standard mode, which they added a lot of bells and whistles to modernize the game. I recall from playing this when it must have been close to 2012 when it came out, and I recall really liking that standard edition. It has a lot more more exciting adventure elements. You've got pirates, you've got event cards, you've got random technology, roll dice, things happen. I should probably let me roll this back. This is a pick up and deliver game. Sci-fi, you've got a spaceship. There's a bunch of planets in the galaxy that you're flying around to pick up goods and deliver them, basically. But the key thing being that each species will sell one type of good and will only buy certain other types of goods. So the first species will sell designer jeans, Genes, of course, but only 4 of the 14 species will buy those genes. All of these species are face down at the start of the game, so you have to like literally fly around and visit them to discover where they are. So it's it's an optimization puzzle in trying to find the optimal path and buy low, sell high, but with constantly new information being revealed as new races are revealed, new routes get blocked or become more accessible, demand tokens coming out that will change what things are worth. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just find that key mechanic, pick up and deliver, really satisfying. Of like space trucking, like literally, just you got your spaceship, you're picking up goods, you're filling it up, you're driving, you're finding where it needs to go. It's just a very primal sort of ticking off task need that it fulfills in me. I don't know, but I really find that I really like that kind of optimization puzzle, to be honest. And the curious thing about revisiting this game was that I don't really love the standard mode anymore. It was very random. Was I said you're rolling like every second space as you're moving around. Events are coming up, hazards are coming up, pirates are coming up. You might just get a card that gives you $200. I found that a bit of a chaos simulator. Probably works well as a beer and pretzel game if you've got the right group for it, but ultimately going to be very random. What I really still love though is the classic mode, the sort of the original vision of this game, which largely feels like Euro Truck Simulator in space. Whereas the standard mode is more like sort of trying to deliver something in Futurama with all the mayhem and mishaps that might happen there. So it's both modes are still roll and moves. There's always a little bit of unpredictability. You still might roll or two and be stuck in the middle of nowhere. I guess the space lane traffic was pretty strong today. Your turn is a bust. You don't get to do anything. So it's still going to be that. But ultimately, the pacing of that is still it lets you focus on that key element without all the distractions and other things going on that sort of deter from that key core of pick up and deliver in space.
Nice. I might be mistaken, but is this is the first edition of this game quite old? Like, is it like
1988?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
old
I thought. So it's an older game, definitely not the newest hotness. Not that it has to be, but older games kind of have to be judged by their own qualities, don't they?
Yeah, the original version was very much looked like a war game with the little cardboard chits, basically, that you like pop out. Very simple. I've not played that edition, but as far as I know, it's very similar to the classic mode with just some balance changes. I'd love to see this game. Like, I'd like to see a third version of this with, again, modernizing it. I feel that this particular edition was a very 2010 sense of Ameritrash games, and just it has to be exciting and it has to be things happening and event cards and 5 different stacks of cards with things happening, right? Which can be exciting, but it's not very balanced. It's just, but again, maybe a beer and pretzels experience, roll dice, things happen. But it is a long game too. Like if you're playing with 4 players, it would probably be 4 hours or more. But yeah, the classic mode of this, I still struggle to say any one game is my favorite of all time. But this just, it hit really strong when I first played it. It still hits pretty well. And it feels a need for me to just do some space trucking.
Yeah, it looks like the original designer of this game, Richard Hamblin, was responsible for quite a few proper war games,
I can imagine,
dating back to the 1970s. So, yeah, there's some pedigree to this, designer pedigree. Very cool. So that takes us from 25 all the way to number 1 for both of us. Not strictly 50 games because we have had a bit of overlap. Shall we recount the official overlap games?
Oh, I don't have my final list here.
I think I have them in place. Well, I think the ones that we did overlap are Keyforge.
Yes.
Yokohama. And Eclipse. Is that right?
Dune Imperium.
Okay, Dune Imperium, yeah. So
I believe there was one more from last episode.
Dune Imperium is a bit of a half mark because I kind of cheated there. So, I'll count down my original list. Earth Dawn, Texas Hold'em Poker, Magic the Gathering, Keyforge, Agricola, City of Mist, Le Havre, The Strange, Lost Cities, Gizmos, Race for the Galaxy, Chronicle, A Feast for Odin, Terraforming Mars, Scythe, Dune Imperium, Through the Ages, Shadowrun, Yokohama, Res Arcana, Orleans, Eminent Domain, Eclipse, Underwater Cities, Go.
I think it was just those 4. I think because last episode you teased that Yokohama was going to be an overlap, so that might be what I'm thinking of.
There you go. So who wins then? I think you said 3 and I said 5. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I think it's Price is Right rules, right? So closest without going over.
I'll give it a draw since I sort of cheated there.
Yeah.
But
sure.
we did definitely get four overlaps at this point.
More overlap than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah,
and especially
there you go.
right on the dollar there with Eclipse.
Right, number 3 for each.
Tells us we should be playing more of that.
Definitely, yeah. We should definitely play some more of these games again. I'd love to teach you Go because it's honestly a classic. It could be taught to anyone, even at its most basic level. And there's this exercise has taught me that we need to be pulling out some of our older games and playing them some more.
Yes, it's been a great reminder that I need to play more of these, and that we've always focused on a lot of older games as much as the new hotness, and I think right now, circumstances in the world notwithstanding, I think it's particularly key to maybe revisiting some older games and finding the love there. I think the new format will let us explore some of these games. Perhaps that one of us might love more than the other. Potentially, we can take some time for that and dig into them a little more.
There you go. Well, great. I think that was fun, and we still have our top 10 video games to cover next week. So why don't we give the people back their time? Because I have to thank everyone for sticking with us, indulging with us this long. So we've covered through our personal lists of top games, and we're imperfect people, but we all have our personal touchstones, right?
Yes, yeah, and this is, as much of an excuse for you to get to know us a little better. We haven't had the chance to revisit some of our favorites before, so it's been good fun to get to know each other a little better as well.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us, and thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments on any of the games discussed, you can contact us at omnigamersclub@gmail.com or at our website, omnigamers.club.
Right. And like and subscribe to us on YouTube, where we post videos of these episodes, or a podcatcher of your choice. Please, even beyond that, share with a friend if you think that they might enjoy this content that we put out there. It helps spread the word, and it inspires us once we hear feedback to keep putting out episodes into the future.
Yes. I will say too that I don't think I announced last episode, but I am currently unemployed quite unexpectedly. So have a little more time for visiting some games, but also for joining other friends on streams and other podcasts. I joined friend Amanda Panda for a stream of Dungeon Cart this last week, which is a lot of fun. So I don't know if I'll reboot my own stream just yet, but I will look at how I can utilize some spare time to see what else we can do with the show. So stay tuned for that.
Very cool. All right. So, of course, you can catch us on social media. You can catch me at omnigamermark on Bluesky. That's primarily where I put stuff out. And I think I might try and share some more different types of things. I'm also planning to take my trip to Japan this summer. So I'm gearing up to pick some new games, and I'll be sharing some photos and things of things I find over there, I'm sure, as well.
Excellent. I'm curious to see you digging into the Japanese game market and see what gems you can find there.
Absolutely. There's a whole new world out there of games to be had. All right. So should we leave it there?
Absolutely. In the meantime, you can have a balanced diet of games.
Yeah. Get those tasty games. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.